So our final presentation in this session is from Genya Dana, and she'll be talking on the World Economic Forum's precision medicine effort.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Genya Dana. It's like Kenya, but with a G. And I want to thank the organizers for inviting me to speak on behalf of the World Economic Forum. We are an institution that is based in Geneva, and we have just recently started a campus in San Francisco that's focused on governance challenges around emerging technology areas. So I am here to explain a little bit about that center and the new program that we are starting around precision medicine. We're a little bit new to this space, and we are firmly focused on some of the policy challenges and having an impact on tackling those policy challenges in this space, along with 8 other emerging technology program areas. So, for those of you who may have only heard about the World Economic Forum in passing or may not be familiar with it, it is an international organization that's committed to public-private cooperation, and we serve mostly as a convening platform for bringing together leaders and stakeholders around the world who are committed to shaping the future of the world and making it a better place. The organization was started in 1971, and it's gone through what I would like to think of as 3 phases. We're in the 3rd now. The first phase was, again, the convening, so the bringing together of world leaders to improve the state of the world and talk about pressing social and economic issues. We moved into a second phase, which was a lot more in addition to the convening, but about insights and generating knowledge and information. So this was the phase where you would start to see some of our major reports come through, like the global competitiveness reporting. The 3rd phase, which we're moving into now, is translating the convening power that we have and the community that we've built over the years and the insights that we've gathered together through our networks into impact. And that transition has come about through and driven by an awareness that there's an incredible pace of technological change that's happening in the world. And as technologies are moving through and into society very rapidly, governments and society are struggling to keep up. And it's creating a lot of different governance challenges. To that end, then, we launched in March of this year the Center for the 4th Industrial Revolution in San Francisco. And this is a concept that builds on previous industrial revolutions, the first being that around water and steam power, the second being around electrification, the third being around digital services or digital platform technologies, and now entering into the 4th, where we're seeing a convergence of a lot of different technological areas, the biological, the physical, and the digital. And in this center, we are focused on developing and testing policy frameworks and protocols that maximize the benefits of emerging technologies while minimizing the risks to societies. The way that we are focusing on doing that is through the design of pilot programs with governments, business leaders, civil society, international organizations. We have 9 program areas, as I mentioned before: artificial intelligence, blockchain, drones, autonomous vehicles, Internet of Things, and those are our so-called tech stacks. These are probably things that you have seen in the news a lot, and that are from a government's perspective, and many policymakers, having been a policymaker myself, are struggling to keep up with and figure out how to integrate into society and how to cope with in our current governance structures and models. So in those tech stacks, we then have other projects that cut across and draw from them. Those are digital trade and cross-border data flows, Much of economic activity is built around the movement of data. This is very challenging as different jurisdictions have different data privacy and data localization issues. We have another project that pulls together a lot of those emerging technology areas, but in the environment space, so environment in the fourth industrial revolution. We're also looking at the future of production and how do those different technologies weave into how manufacturing and workforces will change over time. And then the project that I am responsible for heading up and designing, that is on precision medicine, which again draws on many of these emerging technology areas and powers a move towards a more personalized and tailored approach to health and healthcare. So again, the center is very new, and our model is that we have partners who commit resources to the center and participate in the design of pilot projects to look at the governance challenges around these different areas. The forum itself is a membership-based organization. Institutions pay to be a part of the forum and then get access to the networks and the communities and the knowledge that we are generating and that they generate with us. For the center, they are also, those who are interested in these governance challenges around emerging technologies become partners there. We are, with our healthcare space, we have 58 health and healthcare institutions that are already part of the World Economic Forum. So these are insurance companies, these are hospital systems, these are pharma companies, they are institutions like the American Heart Association, and they are involved in one of our system initiatives within the forum called the Future on Health and Healthcare. Now, that is to say that there's a lot of activity happening within the forum right now around the future of health and healthcare. There are programs happening on pandemic preparedness, on value in healthcare. So the space around precision medicine has been something that's been talked about within the healthcare community for a long time, internationally, and at very high levels within the forum. It is only recently now that we've begun to think about the center in San Francisco and moving towards how do we help governments and stakeholders think about governance, that the precision medicine idea and set of challenges found a home, really, within the forum and in this new center. So in the center, we are recruiting in specifically, and this is a very critical piece of the model for us, governments to participate in the development of and the testing of pilot projects. I'll explain a little bit more about what a pilot project could look like in a minute. But we recognize that in facing governance challenges around regulation, around movement of data, around public engagement and ethical issues, these are all things that governments are interested in and are potentially struggling with as they see more and more technology and change coming into health and healthcare and are launching initiatives around precision or personalized medicine, often what we've heard just from our panelists here on the side. So we are working to recruit 20 governments, both at the city, the state, the national, and the international level, to be partners to the center in San Francisco, which means they will second in someone from their institution for up to 18 months. And they will sit in the center along with our other center partners who are listed here, and they will co-design with us projects, and they will help to be our connectivity back to those home governments and help us implement new ways of dealing with governance, norms, standards, protocols, partnerships, those kinds of things. And we're focused very much on that user-centered design ethos. It's no good to sit and sort of talk about what you think would work without actually testing it out. So the governments that we have right now are the governments of Japan and Rwanda. Rwanda is working right now on integrating drones into their civil airspace. They're using drones right now from a company called Zipline to transport blood to remote hospital systems because their infrastructure, their road infrastructure, is, especially during the rainy season, it's not reliable. So they're looking to sort of bypass the building of a lot of infrastructure and move towards an emerging technology solution in the healthcare space for that. So Rwanda is known in Africa as a sandbox of innovation. Japan, also known for their innovation and forward thinking, especially in some of this genomics and rare medicine space, and particularly with their Society 5.0 push and looking at their aging society. They have a strong interest in the healthcare space and improving that. So this is a list of who our center partners are in the healthcare space. This means that Kaiser Permanente, which is a provider and a payer of healthcare, the American Heart Association, more like an advocacy group, and Dignity Health, which is a big hospital institution on the West Coast, have paid in additional resources and are going to second someone into the center to be in the mix with governments and with other stakeholders to create these projects. So the program objective for precision medicine is to shape the trajectory of precision medicine to promote societal benefits while minimizing some of the risks. We've all seen headlines about very pricey therapeutics that are starting to come from some of these new approaches. So we want to sort of tackle those issues head on and look at ways that these technological advances can move through society in positive ways. We will do this through designing and testing governance approaches for precision medicine through pilot projects with a collection of governments, private sector, civil society, academia, etc. So the way that these projects might go is that we'll tackle them in 3 phases. The first, and I'll skip, let's actually look at some of the areas, the issue areas here. Tackling it in 3 phases. The first is to scope the landscape and understand who the big players are in precision medicine and what are some of the pain points that are preventing us from moving towards a more personalized and tailored approach to health and healthcare. Once we have an understanding of the stakeholder community, and this is global, and who's doing what in this space and what their priorities are, then we move to working with our partner governments in particular to figure out, okay, so if we wanted to tackle data sharing and infrastructure, what is it about that problem that is amenable to a test case? And we know that there are already many efforts and initiatives underway to look at issues around data and data sharing. So maybe in this instance, it's a matter of finding those that are working or those that are reaching across country boundaries, looking at what they're doing and figuring out how to get a government pulled into that initiative if they're not already there. Some of them are sponsoring this kind of work. But to look at, okay, so are there barriers to moving this kind of data across national jurisdictions? From Germany to the UK, from Japan to Malaysia, from China to the United States. These are policy challenges. So the goal would be in a pilot project in the second phase to figure out, all right, if we're concerned about data, everybody says data is the issue they want to work on. What is it that we can use and test to unlock the ability to move data more quickly, more easily between jurisdictions? Once we have an understanding of the landscape and an understanding of what possible governance mechanisms might be to unlock some of these challenges, then we move into the pilot phase, which is where we actually start the design and the launch of a project, and then we'll run that project in collaboration with governments and with the stakeholder community, assess that at the end of 9 months, and have a look to see, okay, these kind of protocols worked, okay, they would only really work in this kind of situation, etc., and share those learnings out with other communities who are interested in the same kinds of challenges. So in summary of the challenges that have already been discussed within the community and that are sort of going through the prioritization process right now are generation of evidence that these approaches to disease treatment and prevention work. This is a big question for the insurance industry or those who pay for or are expected to pay for these advances. The data sharing and the infrastructure, how do we move information around? How do we take it from different sources? How do we combine it? How do we protect its privacy? Huge questions in this space. Regulatory environments, perhaps clinical trial structure may maybe you need to look at when we have rare diseases and very, very small populations. Integration of the research into clinical practice and back and forth. I've seen a lot of that discussed here. Pricing and reimbursement, how are we going to pay for things that appear to or could be perceived by the public anyway or policymakers to be very expensive. And then also the patient and public engagement piece. And to me, this is a lot about that interface between the clinician and the patient. So how does the healthcare professionals understand and adapt to an ever more data-intensive endeavor? And how do they interface with their patients who may be coming to them with requests for genetic tests or their results from genetic tests? How does all of that get sorted out? What are the standards and best practices around providing good advice on that front? So those are the overview of the challenges and the methodology that we intend to use. And for this group, I am very interested, and I'm really glad to have met my colleagues here on stage because, again, this is a global scoping exercise and a global endeavor. So the more that we can know about who is working on precision and personalized medicine in different countries or in different states, provinces, jurisdictions, the better we can understand what our value add is and who the stakeholders are that we should be bringing to the table. And also learning what the challenges are that each country or each institution thinks are a priority in the precision medicine space. I think in listening to the presentations so far, the generation of evidence of efficacy is a huge part of what you're working on. So how do we know if it is effective? How do we understand the biological basis of what's happening here and whether the promise and the sort of the hype that we're hearing around the abilities of precision medicine to tackle some of and solve some of these issues, how does that square with reality? That's a lot of what I also try to internalize. So that is a bit of an overview on what we're doing out in San Francisco and how it connects back into the forum and its international set of activities and mandate. Thank you.
I think we've